All right, everyone, if you listen to the black pillars among the alt media, or if you listen to, 90% of the legacy media, you'd think that Donald Trump was done for. Well, the Trump economy is finally here. You see, it's Democrats reduced the U.S. economy by a third, so now it's the Trump economy because of what they have done. Coronavirus response and stuff. You'd think that he was done. If you look at polling aggregates, though, which are far more accurate than individual polls, you should never use an individual poll, you see a different story, which is that Trump has already risen back to 43. A year ago, he struggled to hit 40, so keep in mind his floor is in the low 40s. That's a pretty high floor. I don't know where his ceiling is. He hit 48 before the coronavirus response sort of started to get panned because more people were dying. Specifically because we expanded the definition of what it means to die of coronavirus to the point where any comorbidity at all still results in COVID on the death certificate. No other country is doing this. That's why it looks more deadly here. We're simply doing more tests as well, so we're finding more of the actual cases. They don't do tests for anyone here unless they have explicit symptoms, and then they still have to go to the hospital voluntarily. Mostly when people are significantly ill, unless they're on death's doorstep, they prefer not to have to go out for a drive, by the way. I'm just going to put that one out there. That being said, Trump's polling is already back at 43. Now, I think that trajectory is a little bit too high. We need more data points. I think it'll be 42.5, 43. That'll be sort of the gravitation point for a while. What I said, though, like a week ago, was that I expected him to hit his floor at around 41, which he did, to rise back up to 44 or thereabouts by the first debate. This trajectory would get him there. The reason that he wins thereafter is a combination of factors, in my opinion. Number one, while the economy in quarter two is cratered, I do believe it'll still recover somewhat. Unemployment is still down, although in the blue states they're trying to change that and put as many people out of work as possible so that they can get a mandate for UBI and more welfare and Biden presidency, which is a Stewart figurehead candidacy. Basically, his VP would be running the show, along with a shadowy cabal of insiders, Hillary Clinton, Obama, some of these others, that have deep pockets and big connections. George Soros comes to mind. He's held up as the universal boogeyman by the right. He's not the only demon in the hell that is far leftism, though. He's only one of them and probably not the most significant, just the whipping boy, so to speak, for their movement. But I think that he gains a point at each debate. So that would put him at 47, which is supposedly the magic re-election number. Obama was roughly there when he was re-elected against Romney. And I think that the rest is taken care of by enthusiasm differentials. There was a 2.2 point swing between the real number, the N number, and the polling speculation and matchups between Trump and Hillary. That's an enthusiasm gap. The gap is much wider now, by 6 points. I think it could hit 3 points, arguably. 2.5 would be easy. I would expect that 3 points is possible. That puts Trump at a 50-50 race, and in a 50-50 photo finish race, and even Nate Silver is pointing this out, and trust me, he wants Biden to win. He's fundamentally a liberal. He's not a Trump fan. He's not wearing a MAGA hat. He would expect Trump to pull it off. I think that's what'll happen. I mean, look, the leftists, by the way, are totally demoralized. Shoot at a poll starting the other day with a considerable gap there of people. There's like 15,000 people participating, most of which, if they're fans of the skeptics material, they'd probably lean towards supporting Biden to some degree, most of them being more Bernie geared, and they don't even expect Biden to win. Barely half of Democrats expect him to be able to debate Trump. Keep that in mind. When I see, therefore, Trump rising back up, albeit to admittedly mediocre levels at the moment, he's still not that far behind where Obama was at the same point in his first term. Obama was in the mid-40s right now. Trump's at 43. It's not a huge difference. When you look at matchup polls between Biden and Trump, those only tell the national story. You've got to understand, partisan politics have hit the left like a sledgehammer. Liberals have become hyper-partisan. In states where they're profuse, they're going to turn out at high numbers, giving probably the popular vote to Biden. By the way, let's face it, unless he has a total Alzheimer's moment, which again I calculate a 20% chance roughly of. Unless he has a total knockout moment at one of the debates, again possible, although not necessarily crazily likely. I'm hoping it happens, but I don't expect it to happen. I expect more minor gaffes to take attrition off of him. I would expect that because of blue state turnout, which is where you'll get the enthusiasm, California, New York, places like that, Biden wins the popular vote, but it doesn't matter. Those excess votes, even if he gets a couple million extra votes, it doesn't matter because they're all in states that he's going to win handily. With the Republicans, it's more like they're hoping to win a handful of states with a 51-point threshold, with 51% of the vote. The Democrats, meanwhile, will be getting like 70, 80% in some of these hyper-blue states, but the votes are excessive and don't matter because of the Electoral College existing, which, by the way, is wonderful. That's the way it's meant to work because otherwise California would basically run the show. Well, you've already got your senators, you've already got the most representatives, you don't need perpetual control over the executive branch too. That's basically why they want to eliminate it. They want a handful of big cities, basically, to run the whole country. I think that would probably be bad because in such situations you tend to neglect the little people of small town America or wherever else and farmers and stuff, and then they get pissed. And when rural and suburban people get pissed, they're very well armed. They're also outsized with regards to personal individual land holdings and then the capability of throttling your production. Now, farmers here can lock down entire cities by marching some tractors down the road. You've noticed that, correct? When the government is hyper-centralized like that, it can become a goddamn problem. So I would expect, I mean, again, I'll lower Trump's odds of re-election to 85% because of the economic news. And because of how low his polling did go. It would be lower. I mean, again, if it were anyone but Trump facing off against any of the other candidates but Biden, I would probably look at it differently. Maybe Trump would only have a mild advantage, but Biden is demented. Coronavirus is starting to become a thorn in the side of the left because the lockdowns are getting less and less popular over time as people realize just how fucked up it really is and how they're causing a Great Depression. We still got debates. People say, well, there won't be debates. At the very least, they'd push for a digital format. You got to understand that. Trump suspended some ad buying the other day, and they're saying, oh, haha, it's because we're kicking their ass. No. It's because he wants better advertising and targeting. Doesn't seem to really mean much, though. At this point, he advertises himself just by making a tweet, when Twitter allows him to do that without fact-checking him, of course. Interesting how literal billionaires running billion-dollar corporations can interfere in the election transparently, and the left doesn't have a problem with that. Twitter has way more power than Russia does over human communication. You realize that, correct? It's just the way that things are. Unfortunately, we've created an unaccountable corporate bureaucratic elite that has strangulated all human communication at this point. So yeah, there's a little bit of a optimistic polling analysis for today. That's about all. Peace out.